What HIV/AIDS did to millions of lives in the yesteryears is what cancer is doing to lives around the globe. All the time you hear cancer, stigma, death, people are afraid. And this is a topic that when you look at it, it's very scary. But today we are so glad to have Dr. Eddie Ramirez, a lifestyle medicine doctor, an international speaker, and a researcher. He's going to help us unpack this topic, and I have a live audience with me who are going to ask questions. Welcome to Afya Fix. I am your host, Gladys Ombongi from Lishe Leo, and we are going to discuss cancer and nutrition. So why are the numbers of cancer increasing so much around the world today?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. You know, cancers around the world are increasing because of the way that we are living. And, you know, there's some parts in the globe, in the Western world, in which 1 out of 2 men will end up with cancer. And 1 out of 3 females will end up with cancer.
Wow.
And as countries such as Kenya continues to change more into the pattern of those westernized countries, that's why we are seeing an increase in the number of cases. And in fact, people are starting to be afraid of this.
Yes.
Sometimes as a doctor, the patient don't even want to hear the word cancer. They say, don't even say it, you know. As if you say it, you know, you're gonna get it, you know.
Yes.
I can assure you, you won't get it, you know, by saying the word, you know, that I know for sure, you know. But rather let us focus on trying to understand, you know, where it's coming from and what can we do to avoid this problem.
Wow. There's so much stigma for sure, and it's very scary. Families get very scared. So what are some of the signs that we perhaps need to look out for to just at least have a clue and be on the lookout?
Yes, this is like very important. There are 7 international recognized signs that if you have one of them or a couple of them, it doesn't mean you have cancer, but for the record, because people start getting stressed out, you know.
Yeah, sure.
It just means it's a warning sign. It's not a cancer sign, okay? So it means if you detect one of them, you better go and find a competent physician just to check things out, make sure that everything is fine. Number 1 is change in bowel or bladder habits. Okay, you used to go twice a day to go to the toilet, and then suddenly, you know, now it's becoming 7 times, you know, and this has been going for the last 2 weeks. Something is not right, you know. Let's check something.
And you didn't eat bad food.
That's right, you know. You haven't changed your diet or something recently, you know. Or the opposite, you know, you were very regular and suddenly, you know, you're becoming, you know, a lot of constipation and so forth, you know. Let's go and check that out. And same story for the bladder, okay? Also, that also could need something that needs to be further studies. Also, this one I've seen very often, a sore that does not heal. Okay, a sore should heal, you know, unless you're diabetic and you're out of control. That, by the way, you know, by the lifestyle changes, you can actually help that sore to heal. But a sore that is not healing, yeah, we want to check that to make sure that things are moving in the right direction. One of the sources of cancer is irritation, which causes inflammation. So anything that is irritated chronically, you know, that can potentially change the cells. Also, a bleeding or a discharge that is unusual. Okay, so we wanna check this out. We wanna make sure that everything is okay. You know, it could be just a temporary type of thing, but yeah, any discharge, you know, any of your organs we're talking about, you know, or bleeding, you know, that's something that we need to check. One of the reasons why some cancers bleed is because they grow very fast, and as you're growing very fast, even the blood vessels are not formed correctly. So they're more prone to break down, you know, and bleeding and so forth.
Let me cut you short, Daktari. This discharge is not the type or the bleeding that comes as a result of a disease or a condition. It's just unexplained discharge.
That's
Is that
correct.
what you mean?
Exactly. So you don't know why it happened. You know, you wake up in the night and you see some bleeding there. Say, hey, where did that one came from? You know. So you identify, hey, it's coming from here or here. Okay. So yeah, if that bleeding, you know, continues, something is not right. You know, and also sometimes internal type of problems. And you know, when you go to the bathroom or you don't have your period. Yes, you're having bleeding, or you actually finish your period. You know, your menopause, and then a few years later starts bleeding. Something is not right. You need to check that.
Okay.
Next one would be the thickening of a lump, or anywhere in your body, or also in the breast. You know, as you're taking a shower and you feel something, I didn't realize I have this.
Lump, yeah.
You know, I had a relative of mine. She started having a lump, and she didn't go to the doctor. We're talking about for months and months and months until that lump became the size of a grapefruit.
Oh, that's big.
And it was too late.
That's big.
You know, it was too late. See, because one of the key points is that if you can identify it early, you can do something about it. Today, there's many potential treatments. So yes, you know, don't wait. You know, go and check this out and so forth.
And lumps are different. You know, I know there are those we call the fat cells.
Yes.
Are those, what would you
actually,
have to say?
that's actually the most common one. That's the good news, okay? I'm going to tell you. The majority of them are not going to be cancer. So don't, you know, think, oh, I have this, you know, so
cancer.
any
lump is not cancer.
So most of the lumps we see in consultation are not cancer, you know. And if we have questions, you know, we study that a little bit further to separate that.
Good.
Next one, this one is, watch out for this one. Indigestion on the long term, you know, every day indigestion, or difficulty swallowing. Beware, you know, sometimes there's difficulty swallowing liquids, sometimes it's difficulty swallowing solids. Okay, so yeah, anytime that's you know of a problem, you need to check that out. You know, some people have this problem. Oh, I'm just gonna take, you know, my omeprazole or my ranitidine or something. You know. Let's try to find out, you know, what may be the potential cause of this. Next one, you have a wart or you have a mole that is changing. And by changing, we're talking about the size. I've seen cases in which a little wart suddenly started becoming fast growing, like in a matter of weeks. You literally, you know, you start seeing the growth. That's not right. You better go and check that out.
And maybe you can explain a little bit what is a wart or a mole. Sometimes some people would need to know that.
Yeah, so the wart usually is caused by a virus, okay? And that one tends to grow upwards, you know? While the mole is something that that you get. Sometimes it has a little bit of hair, okay, and you have this probably for a long time. You know, you can have it in the face, you can have it somewhere in your body. So you just watch it. You know, that doesn't mean cancer, but you watch it, and if you start seeing again, you know, size growth, you know, color growth, color change. You know, sometimes there's different shades there. That's something that needs to be checked. You know. And in parentheses, one of the good news is that usually cancers of the skin are very treatable. You know,
nice.
99% of them, they're very treatable. But don't wait. I have a friend of mine. I knew it. I knew this person. He had this mole that started changing, and he didn't do anything about it. Not until months and months later, that then started some bleeding and things like that. It was too late. The thing had metastasized, and it was just a mess with his case. Also, a cough that is long-term. You know, it's natural to have some cough. You know, you don't have your mouth dry or something, you know. But a cough that keeps going and going and going, or hoarseness. You lose your
voice.
ability to speak well. That tells us something inside there, maybe growing and so forth. So those are the 7 signs. You need to make sure that you research further if any of them are present.
So do I need to have some signs? If I have 2 of them, 5 of them, 1 of them, when should I run to the hospital?
One of them is enough to go and check yourself. You don't need to go to the ER. This is not an emergency,
Okay,
I can assure you. So do your appointment, and go ahead and check things out, make sure that you are doing some sort of follow-up for that.
So, and before we go to prevention, I'd like to know, what are some of the things that cause cancer? Why are cigarettes, for example, I know everyone knows cigarettes cause cancer.
That's right.
Why are they carcinogenic?
That's right. So we need to understand where cancer comes from. So you have your cell, and then you have your genetic code. So usually cancer is the result of some sort of mutation. Something changed there in that cancer. So for example, the DNA, which happens to be the computer program that runs the cell, well, imagine if as in your cell phone, if the computer, if your app changes, when you run the app home, it crashes, It not only may crash the app, your phone may crash. You have to restart the phone, if the app goes bad. Same thing happens at the level of the genes. Genes are programmed. This is actually an amazing fact that God programmed that. There's absolutely no question about it. This is very complex, So that code, something changed there, and you can end up with that trouble. So as I mentioned, one of the issues is irritation. Irritation long term can potentially cause problems. That, for example, is a problem with GERD, reflux. The reflux, that acid is going up. It's very irritating. You can literally burn your esophagus day by day by day. Your esophagus starts changing, and you start getting what is called a precancerous lesion. It's not cancer yet. The medical term is Barrett's esophagus. But you keep irritating that's not going to end up very pretty, and it can change and become all the way to a cancer. Another thing that potentially causes cancer is what are called the transition zones. So I have these types of cells, and then suddenly I have another type of cells next to it. For example, cervical uterine cancer, that's the cause of that usually. Papilloma, the papilloma virus goes there and starts irritating that zone, and that can change that. Also, sexual relationships too early in life. The transition zone in the female, in the cervix, moves. So when you're very young, it's actually very exposed. That's why you're at more risk of damaging that. So yeah, Solomon said there's a time for everything.
Yes,
so
there is.
so do it on the right time. And anything that is irritating constantly, sometimes a virus, sometimes a bacteria. So yeah, you better watch out for that.
So, and would alcohol fall into the same category in terms of, is it because it irritates, or how does it
That's
end
a
up
very good
causing?
question. There's things that are classified into 3 things. Some things are not carcinogenic. Apples are not carcinogenic. Broccoli is not carcinogenic.
No way.
There's things that may be potentially carcinogenic. We think it may not, But there's things that are carcinogenic. We know they cause cancer. Alcohol is a carcinogenic. It's not a potential, it is a carcinogenic. In fact, there's a little fight there in the courts because they would like to have alcohol have a label there. This product causes cancer, but because of political situations and special interests and so forth, you don't have that label, but it should have that label. So that's why it is never a good idea to drink alcohol, because it can cause that irritation and inflammation, and then you end up with a severe type of problem.
We will hold it there. We now know two things, at least, that can cause cancer: the cigarettes and alcohol. And we will be right back after the break, so don't go away. Welcome back. This is Afya Fix, and in case you're joining us for the first time, we have our guest, Dr. Eddie Ramirez, lifestyle medicine doctor, international speaker, and researcher. And we have a live audience right here. And I'm your host, Gladys Ombongi, a nutritionist with Lishe Leo. Now, before we went on a break, we were talking about what are some of the causes of cancer. And we have something else that is common: coffee. Tell me something about coffee.
The press usually makes you think that coffee is phenomenal, and it has all these antioxidants, and you need it.
Yes.
Well, they tell you that because they need it. There's an addiction there. And in fact, Bristol University did a study, and it said there that that coffee doesn't make you more alert.
Okay.
In fact, people that don't drink coffee are more alert than those that drink the coffee. And Bristol University, in the study, they say that the reason why people keep drinking coffee, and this is what they said, is because they are avoiding the chemotherapy-like effects during the abstinence part of coffee.
Oh,
so if you are used to coffee and you stop it, you have, this
it's the same effect.
Tremendous side effects, and unconsciously that's why you go back to the coffee over and over and over. So there are multiple antioxidants there. You don't need the coffee. I'm going to give you a tip. As Dr. Furman says, what you need are G-bombs. G-bombs. G-bombs are G for greens. All these leafy green vegetables have fantastic properties and loaded with these antioxidants. B for beans. And you guys are blessed here in Kenya with so many different types of beans.
Yes, our variety is rich.
So they are power packed. They are considered a superfood, something you need to eat every day. O for onions. They are from the family of alliums, and all these are power packed. Not only they give good flavor to your food, but they are power packed with phytochemicals that help you fight cancer. And the M is for mushrooms. Mushrooms is something you should be eating, at least on a weekly basis. And the more we learn about mushrooms, the more we surprise ourselves. And then B for berries, okay? And you don't have to buy the exotic, expensive ones that come all the way from Europe or America. Use your local ones. There are many berries here available at a lower cost. That's the name of the game. If it's too expensive, don't buy it. That's as simple as that. And the S for seeds, and we will include the nuts there in that category there. So they not only help you with cancer, they help you with immunity. And Loma Linda University research, they have done quite a bit of research on that subject. Among the Seventh-day Adventists, the regular consumption of nuts actually has a cardioprotective effect. So remember, G-bombs.
Easy to remember, G-bombs. We are going to make sure we do that. I'm just thinking, do I have to take these G-bombs every day?
I should be targeting to have at least one those G bombs every third day, every fourth day.
Every third or fourth day.
That should be kind of your goal. In fact, if you want an app that helps you remind you of this, there is a free app on your Google Store or your Apple Store that you can download, and it's called the Daily Dozen. Okay, and it's a check mark system. So as you go through the day, you check mark. You know,
What
yes,
have
you know,
I
I ate my berries, I ate my beans, I ate my greens, and so forth. Kind of to try to encourage you, you know, to the habit of doing this. And there's some other things that you should not eat. You know, for example, charbroiled meat.
Oh, okay.
You know, barbecue meat. You know, the
Nyama
one that is
Choma.
on the open.
We call it Nyama Choma here.
Nyama Choma, okay? No
Yes.
Nyama Choma, okay? Eating 1 kilogram of charbroiled meat, journal Science came out this one of the top journals in the world, is equivalent at smoking 600 cigarettes. Okay, tremendously carcinogen. You are literally playing with fire. You should have eaten better the charcoal that was there, you know, instead of what you cook it with. Because the problem is the high temperature starts changing the molecules of meat, and they start becoming carcinogenic. And second thing, the smoke creates cancer. In fact, there's even published studies, fascinating. The people that live next to the place where they do the charbroiled meat, you know, restaurant or whatever shop there that was doing that, they are also at increased risk. Just by breathing that smoke that comes from the meat. It's not only meat, but also chicken. If you do that, it's the same story. And the same story also, smoke animal products. Smoked fish, smoked meat, smoked chicken, they are also tremendously carcinogenic due to the fact of that change in the molecule. And this is actually quite the headache for the public health authorities. Because we know that if you eat the meat raw, is loaded with germs. Just go to your place where they sell the meat, take a piece of meat, put it in the microscope, man, there's a river there of all kinds of bacteria. And these are nasty, pathogenic type of bacteria. So if you don't cook the meat enough, you know, you get the trouble there with the microbiology side of things. And if you cook it too much, it becomes carcinogenic. So where do you draw the line? You know, this is very complicated situation. In fact, the microbiology books say there are more bacteria on a piece of chicken than in your toilet. That is how loaded with bacteria chicken is. So somehow people think, oh, you know, I'm going to get a piece of chicken, I'm going to remove the skin and just a little bit, you know, cook
Wash
and so
it.
forth. That is definitely not a health food food.
I'd like to dwell a little bit on the cooking methods. And
Yes.
many people have spoken about of maybe, can I boil my meat and boil it many times? Or because that maybe that would make the meat better.
That's
I
right.
don't know.
Well, it is better by the fact that it's not being submitted to the flame directly, which changes more the molecule. But if you boil your meat and you eat it, still at the end of the day, the excess arachidonic acid will turn on inflammation in your body. And there's people that even know this, you know. For example, people with rheumatoid arthritis, you talk to them, you know, they're going to tell you, you know, when I ate the meat, you know, somehow, you know, the pains just started back again. So it's the inflammation that is triggering in your body. And you're not immune. It's not like, oh, to me, inflammation doesn't affect me. That's not true. You know, everybody that eats this, inflammation will start.
So there is a danger there. The cooking methods are an issue.
Yes.
As well as what
The product
content.
itself. The product itself. That's right. In fact, for example, research show if you're eating meat, you know, if you eat meat once a month, you increase your risk of cancer by 0.39. If you're eating it 2 times a week, you increase it by 50, 0.5. If you're eating it 5 times a week, 0.84, and daily or more than daily, 1.49 your risk. So you start increasing your risk of cancer as you partake of this food. So again, we have talked about this. If once a year, a little piece, whatever,
turkey chicken.
That's okay.
Turkey.
But a month, a week, a day, man, you are increasing your risk of disease very much.
So are you saying we can have turkey chicken? I'm even calling it turkey chicken, turkey at the end of the year for Christmas?
Yeah,
maybe.
Maybe,
Maybe.
Again, you are increasing risk,
Of course, definitely. What about other products like fish? We've of course spoken about the methods of cooking, the exposure to open heat and,
That's right.
and all that. What about fish?
Yes, so fish is a very good question, and the problem with fish has to do with toxicity. The problem with fish today is that there is no toxic-free fish around. So, for example, a study that was done close to where I used to live in California, they were sampling the water there. And they were measuring something that is called the DDD. DDD is a close cousin of DDT. DDD still is used in agriculture and so forth. So they did sample the water, and it had 0.02 parts per million. That is so low, even the drinking of it and so forth is not that big of a deal because it's per million. Now, the microscopic organisms living in that water, they had 5 parts per million. See that big jump from 0.02 to 5? And this is called biomagnification, how toxins increase exponentially in the environment. And the fish that ate those microscopic organisms had between 40 to 300 parts per million.
Wow.
And the carnivorous fish that ate those other fish had up to 2,500 parts per million. Now, in the study, they didn't document the humans that ate those carnivorous fish.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because that thing would have been like super elevated. And this is the fascinating thing. See, those toxins, you start to express them, start coming out of you. Very interesting study that was done among females that were breastfeeding. And they were trying to find out DDT. Even though it was banned, still is very prevalent, in our environment. They found out that only 8% of vegetarian mothers had some level of DDT, while 99% of meat-eating mothers had DDT in their breast. And that's because animal products naturally tend to be more rich in toxins. The fat of the animal tends to capture those toxins. Therefore, mothers, you want to have a healthy child, whole food, plant-based diet. In that way, you decrease the risk of this. And we know very well, that those toxicities have been documented from breast cancer to prostate cancer and so forth. I actually published a paper on fish and toxins, and just Google Francisco Ramirez ResearchGate. That'll take you to the repository where I have my research. And on this paper, we were demonstrating that people that eat fish tend to have more mental health problems. And our hypothesis is that it's secondary to the toxicities inherited naturally by eating those fish.
Wow. Many, many, many lessons there on what actually causes cancer. And I'm just thinking about what can I do? I have cancer. What help is there for me? Nutrition,
That's right.
tips.
Yeah, so tips will be to incorporate those G-bombs
So the
on a
G-bombs.
regular basis. If you have cancer, you have to eat that every day. You know, you have to include one of them every day. There's a good manual you can download for free. It's called the Survivor's Manual. You can find that for free. Just put on your Google Survivor's Manual, PCRM. Peter, Charles, Rome, Mary. That will take you to this website, and you can download it and read it and apply those principles. It's a book just focused on nutrition and you know what type of treatments are available and so forth. This starts to get a little bit complicated because there's different types of cancers. There's different areas of the body. But one of the summary things that you can do would be to watch out for excess UV light. You need sunlight, but not too much, okay? Also, environmental toxins, you know. If it's too polluted where you're living and so forth, close your windows, you know. Don't go out at that time of the day. Breathing all that pollution, you know, can be potentially carcinogenic. Also, my diet. Whole food, plant-based diet. As we talk about, you know, meat on the high heat will become carcinogenic. It doesn't happen the same thing to a carrot, to a sweet potato.
For sure.
They have antioxidants and they stop that damage from happening. What else? I want to avoid alcohol. I want to avoid cigarette smoking. Both of them tremendously carcinogenic. And stress management. If you have a lot of stress, your immune system goes down, and immune system is in charge of stopping cancer. Imagine if all the police went to sleep. Man, the robbers there would have the biggest feast ever, you know? So watch out, keep that immune system nice and high, sleep enough. And watch out for viruses like human papilloma virus. That is a sexually transmitted virus. You don't get this because of bad luck. 2 or more sexual partners increase exponentially your risk of this type of virus. And also certain bacteria, you know. And that's why by switching to the whole food plant-based diet, you can avoid many of these pathogenic bacteria that can potentially cause problems.
Thank you. You have really demystified that, Doctor. And we'd like to go for a short break, and we'll be right back, so don't go away. Welcome back. This is Afya Fix, where we learn the tips on how to fix our afya, literally our health. Before we went on a break, we learned so many other things, and now we want to go to our live audience and answer a few questions. Please go on with your question.
Thank you very much. My name is Kevin Gadara, and I'm thankful for being here. And Dr. Eddie, I think I have one question for you. In terms of, in Kenya, we have a tribe called the Maasai. And by your explanation, you said that eating the Nyama Choma, it's like smoking 600 packs of cigarettes. Now my question is, for the Maasai, actually their staple food is Nyama Choma.
Yes.
They burn it, and also they also drink blood.
That's right.
Yeah, so what's your take on that?
So one of the challenges with the Maasai actually happens to be related to their longevity. So Maasai people are not living as long as, let's say, the Finnish people, the Japanese people that have these tremendous longevities in their 80s and 85, 89 and so forth. So because they're dying early, that's why we don't see even much more cancer, you know. But if they were to live that long, we would expect, a tremendous numbers of cancers, decimating their population. Because what happened is that when we are younger, our immune systems function more efficiently. So as we get older, our immune system gets weaker. That's one of the causes, a few more factors, but that's one of the causes why we are more protected against cancer and different diseases as we're younger. But as you get older, that immune system decreases, more mutations in your DNA take place, you're going to end up, paying those bills. So yeah, that's partially what explains, the decrease on the cancer rate due to the shorter longevity compared to other countries.
And it's also true, Daktari, that what he just asked, in the Maasai community, it goes back to what we covered in our previous programs on the genes that they have because of their lifestyle.
That's right.
When they shift to the city, they face the game.
That's right.
Yes.
Because you get the odds against you. First you have this factor, exactly the question that you had, but at the same time they were living outside in the country, they're doing their exercise, they're resting enough, all these factors which are positive. But now you move to the city and boom, 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 you start putting the odds against you and you get yourself in really big trouble.
Thank you for that question.
Yes.
We can have our next question.
Okay, thank you for this moment. I'm Alan Odero. So there's this notion that has been driving around that we should exchange red meat with white meat. And then during the presentation, all these, both white meat and red meat were risk factors, the causes of
That's
cancer.
right, that's right, that's
so
right.
what do you advise on this?
Yeah, so that's what I call a myth. So there is no truth to it. It's just a myth that gets replicated as time goes by. There's an interesting study that was done among white meat eaters. And it was found that if you eat white meat, on a regular basis, let's say less than once a week, you increase your risk by 55%, of cancer. So eating it, kind of like a monthly type of thing, less than once a month, white meats. And if you're eating white meats more than once a meat, you increase your risk of cancer by 200%.
Wow.
So that idea that, the protein and this is so good for me and so forth, it is not good for you. You are playing with fire. So people also ask me, Doctor, am I going to have complete nutrition if I, eliminate completely the white and the red meat? Absolutely, yes. Your ancestors, that's what they ate, That's what the people in Kenya ate in the old days. They were farmers. They were eating what the ground was giving them. And your grandparents and so forth, they were strong people, that was able to, live good quality life secondary to those foods that they were eating.
Wow. Yes, the white and the red, the discussion continues, I'm sure. Let's have another question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edi, for such an enlightening presentation. I have two questions. My name is Caroline Nyangeri. First question is, I think I'll be speaking to very many people. You mentioned that there's a lot of people getting long-term irritations. I'm referring to the reflux, the GERD issues that have become very common with many people. And I was just wondering, is there a way that this can be alleviated other than using the medications that they're given in hospitals? And then my second question is about the issue of Nyama Choma that you mentioned.
Yes.
This part of the world, we love our roasted maize. Is there a way we can safely roast our maize?
That's right. Yeah, the best way of roasting your meat is burning it to the 100%. If you make your meat charcoal, then, there's absolutely nothing that can harm you there, But the problem is that this is something halfway, So that's why it is so dangerous.
She actually asked roasted maize.
Yeah,
not meat.
Oh, not meat. Okay,
Yes.
just the corn.
Yes, the corn.
Okay, the corn.
Oh, yeah.
So the advantage of roasting the vegetable is that there is antioxidants there. So the antioxidants will actually stop some of those cancer-causing issues. Okay, so do it in a way that is just kind of just roasted a little bit, not completely burned. Okay, and eat it with an abundance of those G-bombs. Okay. In that way, you can have that advantage. But sometimes, you know, it's so burned, you know, you can
It's black,
see.
yes.
That's right, black, you know, that's too much, you know. But you can have it nice and golden, you know, and that's good, you know. So the antioxidants there are able to protect, you know, some of that genetic damage that is causing the heat. And then coming back to the point, let me address esophageal cancer. See, esophageal cancer is a tremendously dangerous cancer because of the nature of our esophagus. God made the esophagus to open. So when you're eating something, it opens up and it lets them go. So drinking coffee, drinking tea, by the way, also drinking it too hot is also carcinogenic. Eating meat, eating white meat, these type of things, and alcohol, of course, and cigarettes, these type of things start changing the esophagus or having reflux and not controlling it. You start changing the esophagus. You may even start having a cancer there. But because of the nature of the esophagus that is flexible, the cancer can be growing. You don't even realize that. And by the time, you know, bleeding starts, by the time that you start having trouble, you know, passing liquids or meat, this thing can be so grown, so big, you know, that it's already metastasized by the time that we find the esophageal cancer. That's why this is such a dangerous disease. And that's why on the battle for cancer, we probably were never going to win the complete cure once the cancer is presented. There's some good, you know, advances on that. But the way we're going to win this battle is going to be on the prevention side of things. We need to prevent this problem on the first place.
So we don't need to let it get in and then start fighting it from inside. So we need to fight it before it gets close to us. And that would be the best way out. Let's have another question.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have one question. Dr. Please explain to us the connection between use of oils and cancer and how it becomes radicalized, and which oil we can actually use that is safe.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the oil question. For many people, the ideal thing for oil is no oil. Okay. Because oil are concentrated energy. Okay. Now, you need to take into account your level of activity. If you're very, very active, you know, you're running, you know, you're 20 kilometers a day, stuff like that, you better put some oil there, you know, because you need to meet your caloric need, you know. But the average sedentary person actually doesn't need that much oil. Instead, you need to be taking your fats from more natural sources like your avocados, like your olives, like your chia seeds, like your flax seeds, and so forth, and your nuts. So if you need some oil, you know, what is the best oil? There's some good options there, you know. Canola oil is an option. It has, you know, some good ratio there with your omega-3s. Corn oil is also another option. It is a big country, producing country, you know, that I'm sure there's a lot of canola oil. And olive oil, you know. And the issue is that you should not eat fried foods. Fried foods are not good for you, period, you know. And I know your neighbors, the Indians, taught you how to do samosas and these type of things.
Yes,
but
and mandazi too.
they're not the best thing for you, you know, because they are very high-fat food. And those, you know, high-fat foods interfere with your immunity and different factors affecting, you know, your potential, you know, to have a complete health. So yeah, watch out for those oils. We need to learn to decrease the amount of oil that we're taking. If when you ate, your hands were oily, that had too much oil. As simple as that. You shouldn't have all this oil in your hands.
That's a good test. If your fingers have oil, you overdid it. That's very, very helpful. And that's easy to remember. You really don't need to any more lessons, and you don't need to measure it in the lab. So, and we have learned many things, and these are very interesting tips, especially that cancer is a disease that many people are so afraid of.
Yeah.
And even when you're in it, you probably don't know what to do. But I believe if you follow some of these tips, this will be very helpful. Is there room for exercise? Is there room for sleep? What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. It's part of the whole equation. We were focusing more on the nutrition side of things. But yes, exercise has an anti-inflammatory effect on you. So you actually decrease inflammation when you have a regular exercise program, ideally outside in the fresh air. If you can do it in a woods type of area, it's even better. That's what they call the Japanese the forest bathing. Sleep, absolutely essential. You need to be logging in 7 or more hours of sleep. Less than that, inflammation takes place in your body. So yeah, watch out for those other healthy behaviors. They're behaviors that need to be, part of you so that you can have that cancer preventive type of approach.
And before we go, there's one more thing that's very common with cancer. You find that many a times people do a lot of juices. Is it okay for me to take my G-bombs and juice them? Can I juice my beans away, my onions away? What do you have to say about that?
I rather you chew it than drink it. See, there's a reason why there's fiber there. Once you put it in the blender, you separate the fiber from the glucose that is in the food, and you increase the glycemic index, which increases the amount of insulin, and you create a whole group of problems. So I would rather you eat it, okay? That would be much better than juicing it. If somebody has cancer already, then I would consider a little bit of juicing. That will be beneficial for them as complementary to the other therapy that he's doing. I wouldn't do just juicing as my treatment. There's even published research on that. Your prognosis is not good. So you do need the other side of things and complement it, with some juicing, but also your daily G-bombs if you have a cancer.
Okay. And is the prevention between males and females different, or is it just the same story?
It's a very similar story. It's a very similar story, even though the problem with males is that they don't like to take care of things early. Not until the problem is more advanced, they go to the doctor, or the wife takes them.
Okay.
They don't even want to go. They bring them from the ear, But males, you need to put your pride aside, and if you find one of those warning symptoms we talk about, you better, go and check it out with the doctor.
Thank you so much. Indeed, it's true. The health-seeking behaviors of the male population is usually very unique.
Yes.
And I'm just using that word gently. Unique, for lack of a better way of describing it. It has been very lively to have each one of you here, our live audience, to have Dr. Eddie expand on this very almost stigmatizing topic that many of us are not so sure what to do with this. And if you want to follow up on this discussion, you don't need to look very far. Go to our Twitter handle at Hope_Kenya and our Facebook page, Hope Channel Kenya. And you'd also find this material in the YouTube channel, Hope Channel Kenya. And the numbers displayed on your screen would always help you. If you called or if you send a message, you'd find someone to assist you, and you can be part of this live audience as well. It has been very nice to have each one of you, and I am your host, Gladys Ombongi, and it's goodbye from us.